Welcome to the Daily News Currents. Today is Monday, November 24th, and on today's headlines we have 100 more Nazca lines emerge in Peru's desert. Connecticut couple charged with $1 million theft of Lululemon goods. Bringing Thanksgiving food on a plane? Here's what you should know. Conservationists turn to AI and battle to save red squirrels. Don't drink the spirits. Laos backpackers avoid shots after suspected poisonings. Hundreds more Nazca lines emerged in Peru's desert. With drones and AI, researchers managed to double the number of mysterious geoglyphs in a matter of months. Gouged into barren stretch of Pampa in southern Peru, the Nazca lines are one of archaeology's most perplexing mysteries. On the floor of the coastal desert, the shallow markings look like simple furrows, but from the air, hundreds of feet up, they morph into trapezoid spirals and zigzags in some locations, and stylized hummingbirds and spiders in others. There's even a cat with the tail of a fish. Thousands of lines jump cliffs and traverse ravines without changing course. The longest is bullet straight and extends for more than 15 miles. The vast incisions were brought to the world's attention in the mid-1920s by Peruvian scientists who spotted them while hiking through the Nazca foothills. Over the next decade, commercial pilots passing over the region revealed the enormousness of the artwork, which is believed to have been created from 200 BC to 700 AD by a civilization that predated the Inca. It took nearly a century to discover the total of 430 figurative geoglyphs, said Masato Sakai, the archaeologist at Yamagata University in Japan, who has studied the lines for 30 years. Dr. Sakai is the lead author of a survey published in September in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences that found 303 previously uncharted geoglyphs in only 6 months, almost doubling the number that has been mapped as of 2020. The researchers used artificial intelligence in tandem with low-flying drones that covered some 243 square miles. Their conclusions also provide insights into the symbol's enigmatic purpose. The newly found images, an average of 30 feet across, could have been detected in past flyovers if the pilots had known where to look, but the Pampa is so immense that finding the needle in the haystack becomes particularly impossible without the help of automation, said Marcus Freitag, a IBM physicist who collaborated on the project. To identify the new geoglyphs, which are smaller than earlier examples, the investigators used an application capable of discerning the outlines from aerial photographs, no matter how faint. The AI was able to eliminate 98% of the imagery, Dr. Freitag said. Human experts now only need to confirm or reject plausible candidates. That 2% flagged by AI amounted to 47,410 potential sites from the desert plain. Dr. Sakai's team had pored over the high-resolution photos and narrowed the field to 1,309 candidates. These were then categorized into 3 groups based on their potential, allowing us to predict their likelihood of being actual geoglyphs before visiting, Dr. Sakai said. Two years ago, the researchers started scouting the more promising locations by foot and with drones, ultimately ground-truthing 303 geoglyphs. Among the depictions were plants, people, snakes, monkeys, cats, parrots, llamas, and a grisly tableau of wild knife-wielding orcas severing a human head. On the new figures, 244 were suggested by the technology, while the other 59 were identified during the fieldwork unaided by AI. The Nazca people carved the designs into the earth by scraping back the pebbled rust-colored surface to expose the yellow-gray subsoil. Little is known about how the shadowy culture, which left no written record. Aside from the etchings, pretty much all that exists of the civilization are pieces of pottery and an ingenious, still-functioning irrigation network. The ancient geoglyphs have attracted theories that range from the religious, they were homages to powerful mountain and fertility gods, to the environmental, they were astronomical guides to predict infrequent rains in the nearby Andes, to the fantastical, they were landing strips and parking lots for alien spacecraft. Dr. Sakai said the geoglyphs were drawn near pilgrimage routes to temples, which implies that they functioned as sacred spaces for community rituals and could be considered planned public architecture. The new discovered geoglyphs are mainly located along a network of trails that wound through Pampa. Were most likely made by individuals and small groups to share information about rights and human and animal husbandry. Though the archaeological site is a restricted and protected area, the lines have been threatened by occasional vandalism. In 2014, Greenpeace activists left footprints near the colossal hummingbird geoglyphs during a protest aimed at United Nations climate talks delegates in Lima. 4 years later, 3 geoglyphs were damaged when a truck driver reportedly avoided a toll by plowing a rig through the sand. Dr. Sakai said that the markings and spots subject to flash floods and mudslides are particularly vulnerable. While those geoglyphs are partially destroyed by flowing water, it becomes challenging to determine their original shapes, he said. Of the original 1,309 candidates, Dr. Sakai estimates that there are at least 500 undetected figures. I expect that more surprising facts will emerge, he said. Connecticut couple charged in $1 million theft of Lululemon goods. Investigators said the couple used trickery and misdirection to steal merchandise from Lululemon stores in at least 5 states. A Connecticut couple were charged with being part of an organized retail theft operation that is suspected of stealing about $1 million in Lululemon merchandise across several states, the authorities said. The couple, Jaden Anthony Richards, 44, and Akawele Nikisha Laws Richards, 45, of Danbury, Connecticut, were each charged with 1 felony count of organized retail theft this month in connection with crimes that began in September, according to the Ramsey County Attorney Office in Minnesota. They were arrested at a Lululemon store in Woodbury, Minnesota, one day after they went to a Lululemon store in Roseville, Minnesota, where they and an unidentified man stole 45 items worth nearly $5,000, according to the charges. An investigator for Lululemon, who is identified in court documents only by the initials RP, said that the couple began by stealing from Minnesota stores in Edina, Minneapolis, and Minnetonka. The investigator said that the couple also hit Lululemon stores in Connecticut, Colorado, New York, and Utah. After their arrest, the police searched a hotel room in Bloomington, Minnesota, where the couple had been staying, and found a dozen suitcases worth $50,000 worth of Lululemon attire with price tags still attached, according to court records. The investigator said that Mr. Richards would first enter a store and buy an item or two, like shorts and a t-shirt. The couple that would then remove a security tag from another item in the store and attach the tag to one of the items that Mr. Richards had brought. Court records said they used an unidentified tool to remove the tags. Next, Miss Laws Richards and a third person would hide merchandise under their clothes, and they'd walk out the store just ahead of Mr. Richards, the investigator said. When the store's alarm would sound, Mr. Richards would show his bag to Lululemon workers. Inside the bag would be the items he paid for, one of which had a security tag attached, the investigator said. Amid the distraction, Miss Laws Richards and the third person would leave with the stolen goods. They would not be stopped because store workers assumed it was Mr. Richards' bag that had set off the alarm, according to court records. The couple would take all the stolen items to another store to exchange them without a receipt in a transaction known as an unverified exchange, court records show. The new items would slightly exceed the value of the stolen ones, and the couple would pay the difference, prompting the store to issue them a receipt. Then, they would take the stolen items, the newly obtained receipt, to a different store and return everything and receive a refund. Lululemon, an athleisure apparel maker known for its leggings, said in court records that it estimated that it's lost close to $1 million because of the theft ring. Mr. Richards and Miss Laws Richards appeared in court on November 18th. Mr. Richards was released on $100,000 bail, and Miss Laws Richards was released on $30,000 bail. Their release was with conditions such as weekly check-ins. They faced up to 15 years in prison and a $35,000 fine. It was not immediately clear whether the couples had lawyers. This outcome continues to underscore our ongoing collaboration with law enforcement and our investments in advanced technology, team training, and investigative capabilities to combat retail crime and hold offenders accountable, Tristan Shields, Vice President of Asset Protection for Lululemon, said in a statement. This is the first case that the country is prosecuting under a state law enacted last year that addresses organized retail theft. The law increased penalties when the intent is to resell items and not to shoplift goods for personal use. The person is guilty of organized retail theft, the law says, if he or she is working with at least one other person in a retail theft enterprise, was previously involved in at least 2 separate retail thefts in a 6-month period, and tried to sell the goods or return them for anything of value. The National Retail Federation is no longer publishing its data on inventory lost to theft and errors, also known as shrink. In its most recent report, using data from 2022, the group estimated losses to American retailers to be about $112 billion per year. Bringing Thanksgiving food on a plane? Here's what you should know. Did your friends ask you to bring some cranberry sauce to Thanksgiving dinner? Thinking about bringing home Dad's famous mac and cheese that has the secret ingredient that makes it melt in your mouth? Or how about your mother-in-law's candied yams that have been a family favorite each year for over a decade? That shouldn't be an issue if you're flying, according to the Transportation Security Administration. The agency says most foods can be brought through TSA checkpoints, while others will need to go through a checked bag. Traveling by train? That shouldn't be a problem. Amtrak allows riders to bring their own food and drinks aboard at their seats or private sleeping car. However, you can only eat food and drinks brought in the dining and lounge cars while in those cars. Here is what you need to know about traveling home with your favorite Thanksgiving dishes. What should you carry on the plane and check with your luggage? The following items can be taken through a TSA checkpoint: cooked mac and cheese in a pan, cooked or uncooked stuffing in a bag or box, sweet treats and baked goods such as homemade or store-brand cakes, pies, and cookies, green bean casseroles and other types of casseroles, yams, potatoes, green beans, squash, and other types of fresh vegetables, chicken, ham, turkey, steak, which can be frozen, cooked, or uncooked. Foods that TSA says should be packaged with your luggage include sparkling cider, cranberry sauce, maple syrup, and gravy. If you plan to take your food on the plane as a carry-on, make sure your dishes that have liquid meet TSA's 311 rule, which mandates that it must be 3.4 ounces or less, fit into a 1-quart size bag, and it is 1 bag per passenger. When in doubt, TSA says to consider this. If it's a solid item, then it can go through checkpoint. However, if you can spill it, spread it, spray it, pump it, or pour it, and it's larger than 3.4 ounces, then it should go into a checked bag. TSA Administrator David Porosky said flyers can also double-check on the agency's website if the food they bring can go through a checkpoint. There's a special tag for what can I bring, and you can put in what you want to bring to the search feature, and it will tell you whether you can bring it in your accessible property with a checkpoint or whether you need to bring it in your checked bag, he said during a press conference Thursday. Flyers can also text travel to Ask TSA 275-872 and get an answer regarding their holiday dish, he said. Make sure you can keep it at the right temperature. Your grandma's green bean casserole won't be any good to you if it doesn't stay preserved at the right temperature or spoils. Leftovers must be refrigerated within 2 hours of being served or kept hot at above 140 degrees or cold below 40 degrees in order to be safe and prevent food poisoning, the U.S. Department of Agriculture says. USDA advises to throw away food that has been out for more than 2 hours at room temperature because bacteria that cause foodborne illnesses could have reached dangerous levels. The agency also suggests cutting leftover turkey into small pieces and putting them in shallow containers so it can cool faster and evenly. If you want to chow down on some deviled eggs during a long flight, layover, or train stop, you might want to reconsider and wait until you get to your destination. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention says all leftovers should be reheated to at least 165 degrees before eating. Amtrak staff are also prohibited from heating your food in their ovens, handling it, or storing it in their refrigerators. TSA allows ice packs as long as they're frozen solid and not melted when going through screening checkpoint. Frozen ice and ice packs must also meet TSA's 311 rules. Be considerate of others traveling with you. While the smell of the food you share among with your family and friends may make your mouth water, foods such as deviled eggs and chitlings may not be as aromatic for others. According to the YouGov survey released in June, 68 of U.S. adults say it's unacceptable to eat strong-smelling food while on an airplane. If somebody comes in with smelly, greasy food that's unpleasant to the person sitting next to him, or the person sitting next to him is uncomfortable watching them chow down, that's a problem, Scott McCartney said, former middle seat columnist for the Wall Street Journal. Keep in mind that while sitting next to someone on the plane, and you want to open up that container of collard greens before takeoff. conservationists turn to AI to battle to save red squirrels. An artificial intelligence AI tool, which has been trained to tell the difference between gray and red squirrels, could be an absolute game changer, conservationists say. The system, called Squirrel Agent, has been trained on thousands of images of the animals, allowing it to tell them apart with 97% accuracy, the developer says. It can then be used to automatically control access to squirrel feeders, with only reds being allowed into those containing food, and only grays into those where food has been replaced with contraceptive paste. It's a real showcase of what AI can do, said Emma McLennan, co-founder of Genesis Engine, which developed the tool. It's working in real time to do a task that we don't have enough human volunteers to do. Squirrel Agent is currently being tested in sites around the UK in conjunction with 5 wildlife charities. Genesis Engine hopes it will eventually be used much more widely, not just with squirrels, but with other species which would benefit from sophisticated digital monitoring. Ian Glendinning from Northern Red Squirrels, one of the conservation groups involved in the trial, told the BBC that for the animals he is trying to protect, help from technology was urgently needed. We are in the bar of the Last Chance Saloon, and the landlord has just called last orders, he said. Red peril. Gray squirrels are largely responsible for the huge decline in the numbers of red squirrels. This is partly because there are so many of them, and also because they can carry a virus, which they have immunity to, but is lethal to red squirrels. They arrived in the UK around 200 years ago. Red squirrels are hanging on in Scotland and Ireland, and there are some island populations like Ainsley and the Isle of Wight, explained Mr. Glendinning. But mainland England and Wales is in dire straits, and it will become extinct if we are unable to reverse this trend. Efforts to preserve red squirrels are further complicated by the fact that, despite their name, not all red squirrels are red. There are other markers including their tails, ears, size, and weight, which can also distinguish them from gray squirrels, the vastly dominant population, even if they are the same color. The detection processes is time-consuming for human observers, but Squirrel Agent uses the power of AI to rapidly analyze all those markers and decide with an extremely high level of accuracy which is which. It can then automatically decide whether to boost their survival chances by allowing them extra food, or reduce their likelihood of reproducing by steering them towards contraceptives. Bio-whisker. Genesis Engine says the next steps in the evolution of the tech is to go beyond just distinguishing between the types of squirrels and instead identify individual animals. This will be done, Emma McLegan says, by focusing on their whiskers, which are unique to each animal. Whiskers are like human fingerprints, she says. By distinguishing between each character's whisker tips, as well as their base and length, she hopes AI will enable wildlife experts to track and monitor individual members of the population. Over time, this data will build up, allowing scientists and researchers to start tracking family lines, she said. There are already other examples of AI's ability to process huge amounts of data very quickly being useful for conservationists. For example, the World Wildlife Fund uses the tech to analyze millions of photographs of a large area of Australia wiped out by bushfires in order to find places where animals have survived. It has also been taken up by hobbyists, with a Britishman telling BBC News last year how he devised a tool dubbed the Furbinator 3000 to stop foxes and badgers fouling his Surrey garden. Don't drink the spirits. Laos backpackers avoid shots after suspected poisonings. As the sun slowly dips behind the jagged peaks of Mount Namzay, a group of brightly colored hot air balloons drift across the Vang Ving Valley. In the river below, young tourists laugh and splash each other with their kayaks. It is not hard to see what draws so many travelers here to this little town in central Laos. The scenery is stunning, the fun, cheap, and plentiful. But the town has found itself at the center of an international scandal after 6 tourists died last week following suspected methanol poisoning. It is believed their alcohol drinks may have contained methanol, an industrial chemical often used in bootleg alcohol. For the throngs of young Western travelers on Southeast Asia's backpacker trail, Vang Ving has become famous for what they call tubing. One described it to me as a waterborne pub crawl. Groups of friends in swimsuits and bikinis clamber aboard huge inner tubes that would normally be used on trucks and drift downstream, pulling in from time to time at river side bars where vodka shots are liberally administered before plunging back into the water. By the time they reach Vang Ving, everyone is fairly merry. I think we're going to give tubing a miss. Two 27-year-old women from Hertfordshire in UK tell me. The vodka shots are part of the package, but no one wants to drink the local vodka right now. The pair arrived here from Vietnam, just as news of deaths from methanol poisoning was spreading across the world. In Vietnam, we got free drinks, particularly when you're playing games in the evening, one of them tells me. And we just never thought about it. You just presume what they're giving you is safe. We've drunk buckets before, but we're not going to take the risk again, and a lot of people here feel the same. Buckets are exactly what they sound like. Small plastic buckets filled with cheap vodka and other liquors. Groups of friends share the mixture through long plastic straws. Now this has happened. It really makes you think about it, the woman friend says. You wonder why are the drinks free? At the hostel associated with the deaths we heard, they were giving free vodka and whiskey shots for an hour each evening. I think if that happened in the UK, you would definitely think it was dodgy. Both women said they were now sticking to drinking bottled water or canned beer. The deaths of 6 tourists had sent shockwaves through the backpacker scene. Young female travelers feel most vulnerable. The dead include Brighton Simone White, 28, 2 young Australians, Holly Bowles and her best friend Bianca Jones, and 2 young Danish women, Anne-Sophie Orkild Koyman and Freya Venervald Sorensen. Only one of the dead is 57-year-old American James Lewis Houston, was a male. On the travelers' chat, groups may have been questioning whether only women drinks had been spiked with methanol. The truth is, it's still a mystery. What we do know is all the victims stayed at the same place, the Nana Backpackers Hostel. It has now been confirmed that the American victim was found dead in his bedroom there on 13 November. On the same morning, the 2 Danish victims were found unconscious in their rooms and rushed to the local hospital. Today, the Nana hostel is closed. The swimming pool that waited until a few days ago was hosting pool parties is empty. A short walk away, beside the river, a bar called Jai D's has also been raided. The owners of both have forcefully denied serving any illegal or homemade alcohol. Out on the river, there's a little sign that the poisonings are stopping people coming to Vang Ving. Late November is peak tourist season. The rainy season is over, the skies are clear, and the temperature is relatively cool, 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Along the main drag hostel owners told me that they're fully booked. The young travelers from Europe and Australia are actually the minority. By far, the largest groups are from neighboring Thailand and China, the latter shuttling south on the newly finished Chinese-built Laos high-speed rail line. Vang Ving is still a dusty rural town, but it's booming. Local businesses owners glide past in big black Land Cruisers and Range Rovers. As I walked back to my hotel on Saturday night, I was taken aback by the loud bark from the exhaust pipes of the Lamborghini cruising along Vang Ving's single main street. 20 years ago, this was a sleepy little town surrounded by rice fields. Now it's being transformed by Thai and Chinese money. Fancy new hotels are springing up with riverside cocktail bars and infinity pools. But the young Western backpackers are not here for the 5-star experience. They come for the friendly anything-goes atmosphere. At a local motorbike rental, I met 2 fresh graduates from Sussex University. Ned from Somerset said he has no intention of canceling plans because of what happened. People are scared for sure, he says, but I don't get the impression anyone is leaving. Everyone is still having a good time. He adds, but everyone is also saying the same thing. Don't drink the spirits. So people are being very careful. There's definitely the feeling in the air, but I think it's actually quite safe now because all the bars are on edge. No one wants to go to jail. His friend Jack is equally unflustered. We've come home here to meet up with some friends and have fun, and we're still going to do that, he says. I've been here a week now, and I can tell you the people here are absolutely lovely. They are some of the nicest people I've met in all of Southeast Asia. So whatever happened, I don't think there's anything malicious about it. Malicious or not, 6 people are dead, 5 of them young women. The shock waves from what happened here has rippled out around the world. Suburban homes from London to Melbourne, where worried parents with children on the backpacker trail are frantically messaging, checking where they are, and trying to persuade them not to go to Vang Ving. That is all we have for today. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.